What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. It's episode number 2, talking about failures here on the Freedom365 podcast. Welcome back. This is a totally different side of myself and Austin here. You see us on YouTube all the time talking about crypto. Today we're talking about failures. Today we're talking about losing a lot.
Are you just not even going to tell them where we're at and why we're in a different location and why we're on screen together? This is actually like the second time in all of history that we've been on camera together. So yeah, we're here and about to go to a Talladega NASCAR event for a crypto project, but I wanted to commemorate. This is like, I think that we were on a buddy of ours live stream. That was the only other time we were on the same camera.
We've done videos together. We've done videos together in Vegas.
I try not to do anything where I'm in the same shot as you. I don't want to be on the same camera as you at all.
No, listen, we were at Caesar's Palace. I remember doing videos in that little like dome room or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. They got all the slot machines in there and stuff. Yeah, we've done a couple videos. And stuff.
So for those of you guys listening to the audio portion, I apologize for the digress. So you want to digress? What the hell is that?
Yeah. Digress. No, so I digress.
We've had a few drinks because we flew in earlier today. So this is Austin.
We're drinking water now.
We're drinking water now and about to head out to have dinner. So yeah. All right. So we want to talk about failures.
Right.
Which you're going to be talking mostly more because you had more failures
than I have. Dude, you've been on this earth way longer than I have. That's bullshit. You're going to be talking way more than I have. I mean, dude, you've lived here longer. You've had to fail more. I mean, but that's it. Like when it comes to being an entrepreneur, man, I mean, you're going to fail. You can't be afraid to fail. You got to just embrace it until you find something that clicks.
I think that's the biggest misconception that most would-be entrepreneurs or people who want to start their own business or they want to make their own money instead of making money from a 9-to-5 is they think that the first thing that they're going to do out of the gate is going to make them $1 million in the next 10 minutes. I think that's the biggest misconception that most of us have.
Right.
Is that you have to fail in one way or the other, numerous different ways.
No doubt. I mean, I don't know about you, but I spent a lot of time like kind of thinking and writing and I don't know. Maybe I'm a nerd in this way, but like I was like a big journaler. Like
I'm not a journaler. That's not a journaler. Oh my god. Oh my god.
So here's the thing. I mean, all right,
I'm leaving now.
Let me preface this whole conversation by saying this. I was working the 9-to-5 and I was deep in it, and I was on the path of getting a PhD. Right. So like I had everything set out. Right. I had everything kind of laid out. It's like okay. You've got 2 more years left, and then you write your dissertation, and then you become a professor, and like, yay, here we go. Yeah, you're in the real world now.
Okay.
But during that whole thing, I was like, dude, I want to quit. Like, I want to quit.
Because while you were in the middle of getting your PhD.
I saw the writing on the wall, like very early on, and I was like, wait a minute. So I can work harder than the next guy, but yet I'm not going to get a raise for 5 years. It doesn't matter how hard I work.
Right.
I'm just a cog in the wheel.
Yeah.
I'm just a person like the other. So that's what I didn't like about it, because I felt like I was putting in all this effort, but regardless of that effort, I couldn't see the gratification or the money from it. I mean, let's just call it what it is. I mean, we all know teachers are underpaid. Professors are underpaid. And I was frustrated with what I was seeing. I saw the writing on the wall.
And they deliver a lot of value to our community.
100%. I mean, they're molding the minds of young people.
Absolutely. And they should be making more.
100%. But I didn't like the idea of like, I'm looking across the room in our meetings and stuff, right? And I'm like, dude, like, and there's no disrespect in this. Like, don't hear me wrong here. I'm not like being conceited or anything. Like, that's not me. You guys know me from YouTube. And hopefully, if you don't, we both do crypto on YouTube, blah, blah, blah. But I looked across the room and I'm like, that guy's not working as hard as me.
No, I know. I get it.
You know what I mean?
I get it.
But I'm still on the same trajectory as him. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Right.
Like I can't change it. I'm going to get a raise when he gets a raise. And like, why work hard? Why give a shit?
Right. But go back. Okay. But go back to your journaling comment that I jumped all over and gave you a bunch of crap.
Yeah. Sorry. We're bouncing.
So, but go back to that. Your point was that you had a very methodical approach.
I did.
And but give our viewers and listeners some meat around that. Inside of that, what was your methodical approach? How did you go about deciding, hey, I'm doing this, I'm getting my PhD, and you had problems with it for what you just said, but what were you doing over here to try to help build another revenue stream, another business, or what were you doing in this, excuse me, I just threw my mouth a little bit, in this journaling thing What were you doing?
Yeah. So, okay. Maybe it's a little like too intro, what's that word?
Introverted.
No, introspective.
Oh.
Introspective.
You're so introverted. It's introverted.
Introverted. I'm introvert too. Well, I guess, I don't know. I'm an ambivert. It's a combination of extrovert and introvert.
You're just making up words as you go along?
No, look that up. I'm telling you. But, okay, so here was my thinking. Like, I felt like, okay, I'm 2 years into this whole PhD thing. And for you guys who don't know, like, it's a 4-year thing. And it's literally like you're getting grilled for 4 years. What's that thing they do to freshmen and hazing?
Hazing.
It's like a hazing. It's literally like a hazing in fraternity.
Yeah.
And by year 2, I'm like, shit, this ain't for me.
Okay.
Like literally, like year 2 before I even got my first real job,
Right,
I'm like, this isn't for me.
You still haven't told them what you do with the damn journals.
I know, I'm getting there.
Okay.
So, so year 2, I'm like, okay, this isn't for me, but I'm not going to quit.
Okay.
You know, I'm gonna do
it.
I had a goal. I set out to do this. I don't want to quit. I want to finish it. It's cool. You know, let's do it. But at the same time, I was never fully present with the PhD. I did enough to get it. I did enough to get the degree and check the box. And I worked 4 years as a professor. But all during that time, I was looking for something else that I could do. And like before I decided to go full on with the PhD, I was in radio and TV and sports broadcasting. So I was looking at something in that realm. I'm not a math and science guy.
Right.
Like I'm not going to crunch a bunch of numbers. I'm not going to solve a chemistry problem. I'm not going to do any of that shit. So I wrote a lot, dude. I journaled a lot.
What were you journaling?
Literally, it's so simple. Like some people overthink it, but it seriously helped me, man. Like I would just write. Like every morning I would wake up. For the first half hour, I would meditate a little bit. I know it sounds like, voodoo cool. And weird and shit.
Yep.
And meditate a little bit, and I just write. And like some days, I literally wrote about nothing. But other days, like I wrote about like some big ideas that I actually like had. But some days it was like I have nothing to say, but this is how I'm feeling right now. This is kind of where my thoughts are. This is kind of where I'm at in life. This is and it just kind of helped me keep on keeping on when like I really wasn't doing all that well.
Okay.
You know, I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to do the thing, but it helped me kind of progress through. And eventually, like I look back on those journals and I was like, man, there were some things in here that I actually wrote and
okay,
you know,
I'm with you, but I want to make sure I'm unpacking this because the point of this episode of the podcast is failures, right?
Yeah.
So you journaled while you were pursuing the PhD. You've said you didn't want to do the PhD, but you were on that path. But the journaling kind of gave you this big picture context of things that you maybe wanted to do or didn't want to do, which we both agree is a big part of. That's a whole different podcast, but we'll come back to that in a minute.
Right.
But inside of the journaling, was there specific things that came out of that? Like, okay, I now want to go start this type of business, or what was the? It wasn't a straight line. Okay. It wasn't like point A to point B. So what's your takeaway for somebody who's listening to this going, all right, I get it, Zach, you journaled and there was some value in that.
Yeah.
But what would you say to that individual who might be somebody watching or listening on a podcast? What's your takeaway to them?
So
in that context?
I think when we're struggling, when we're going through life and it's hard, because we're all there at some point, right? I feel like we don't, what I like to say, brain dump enough. Like actually check yourself.
We don't look around
like,
at that moment.
Like mentally check yourself. Like, what are you feeling? Like, what are you actually like? How do you feel? Like you just kind of bottle it up and then it turns into this like bad stuff, right? You just feel down and you feel, kind of stuck and whatever, right? Just sometimes writing it out or talking to somebody obviously does it too. But for me, it was like talking to myself a little bit, right? Like, and just kind of understanding like, okay, I'm here, And for me, dude, that was, even though like getting a PhD is like an awesome thing, and it's cool as shit, and I'm happy I did it. But for me, I was failing. Like during that,
weren't doing what you wanted to do.
I didn't love it.
Yeah,
I didn't love it. For me, that was failing.
Right.
And
that's a good thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I kind of struggled through it. I mean, that was probably one of my first real like failures. Like I don't want to do this, but I'm going to muscle through.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean.
Okay. So interesting. So it's interesting because I didn't know where you were going with that. And that's, so your point was the journaling was one component of it, but your point really was in that scenario, tell me if I'm wrong, was that the pursuit of the PhD because you felt like you needed to do that was in and of its own self
Dude,
a
I was
failure.
doing that because that's what I thought you had to do.
There you go.
And that's okay. So here's the thing, like you've probably been here too, and I think a lot of people get caught in this, right? What do other people think? What do other people perceive?
Absolutely. I think
and
a lot
other
of that,
people perceive.
That's a whole episode.
Oh wow,
that's
Zach's killing it. He's getting his PhD, and in reality, I wasn't happy.
You were miserable.
I was miserable.
Yeah.
I hated it.
Yeah.
But I was doing it for my family. I was doing it for my
family. And
you know, it's
public perception of who is Zach and all that, the bullshit that goes in that. Yeah.
But part of becoming an entrepreneur is not giving a shit about any of that.
Yeah, well, but the truth of the matter is that you don't leave that baggage doesn't magically go away.
No, you're right.
You know, that's social baggage that we have regardless.
Sure.
So, okay, so my journey was a little bit different. So, I graduated college back in the Stone Age in 1991, right? So Stone Age, so to speak, when we were still writing on, block, tablets and shit.
Where'd you graduate from?
University of North Texas.
North Texas. That's a huge university, right?
Well, when I went there, it was because that was the only school I applied to because I didn't have any grand vision. So that's a whole probably different thing.
Hey, they let everybody.
Yeah, they did. They let me in. Thank God. Okay. But I went in, so I graduated college and I went into like software sales. And back then in the 90s, everybody wanted to go into pharmaceutical sales. So I was the first one to go into software. This was pre-Windows. This is how old this was. This was like when Windows was about to come out. We were still on DOS.
I remember. Yeah,
can't make this shit up. So, but I was at the right place, right time, and I went into software business and I was in sales and I hated every minute of it.
Yeah,
made great money, but I hated every minute of it for nine years.
Why did you hate it?
Because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And I always wanted to own my own business, but I didn't know what that business was. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know the path. I had no context for anything. I would, so in the late 90s, that's when all these random .coms were starting, and I don't remember them, like dogs.com. Somebody would have money and somebody would have an idea and they'd go get $200 million in VC funding and it would go out of business in like 4 months. This was early internet, right? Yeah. So I'm going to shorten this and I'll give a longer version of this later. Meanwhile, my biological father, which I'll put some context. My mother and my dad had me when they were 16 and 18 respectively. I was obviously not planned, right? Who my mom and my dad divorced when I was very young. My biological father, who I had been close to as I grew up, but not was really close to, was in North Carolina, and he had bought a retail brick and mortar like truck and trailer install shop.
Right.
So he had bought that in the late 90s, and then in 2000 he called me up. He said, "Hey, I've paid for my first website, $35,000 in 2000 is what he paid to have
get the domain.
No, to have the website built.
Okay,
this was a coded by hand trailer hitch website called drawtight-hitches.com, which is, by the way, still around. And he also owned hitchfinder.com. But the website was built by hand, costing $35,000. So the point I'm making is that he had the brick and mortar and he was starting the .com to basically add some additional revenue. So I had already planned in 2000 to go visit him for over Christmas holiday. So I flew up and I spent like 2 weeks there. And I saw what he was doing and I saw opportunity. This was early. Amazon was just barely starting. It was kind of thing, Amazon was just into books. And so I looked at it basically at the end of it. And I said, "Look, Dad," I said, "I hate what I do." He was cash constrained. Yeah. He had no capital. All his money was tied up in the brick and mortar, right?
Was the brick and mortar starting to suffer yet from the internet?
Yeah. No. This was like ahead of. This was like nobody was buying shit on the internet.
Right.
My dad's original goal, you can't make this shit up. My dad's original goal was to sell 9 trailer hitches a day because 9 a day was going to drop $35,000 in net profit to his bottom line because he wasn't making money in the brick and mortar.
Gotcha.
So that was his original goal, to sell 9 hitches a day. So, and he was paying online. Yeah. Thank you. Online. And so the point I'm making is that but he had no cash and he had no systems. That was all by hand. He was running it out of a little bitty 10 by 10 square foot building out of the back of his shop.
Yeah.
And so this was 2000. And so I was there on Christmas and I saw the operation and I basically looked at him and I said, "Dad, I hate what I do. I have cash from being in software sales. I want to quit my job and I wasn't married. I had nothing, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I want to invest in this and I want to go partners in this. And he looked at me like I was crazy. He said, you want to walk away from a 6-figure job? And I said, yeah. I said, because I want to start my own thing. Right. So we were
making 6 figures.
I was doing very, very well, but I hated every damn minute of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That just goes to show you, by the way, money doesn't buy
you happiness. I was miserable. So long and short of it is I did buy in. And when I ultimately sold that business in 2008, when my dad passed away from pancreatic cancer, very suddenly, but when I sold that business, we were shipping north of 1,000 trailer hitches a day. And he wanted to sell 9 a day.
That's insane.
Yeah, we had like 17 websites. It was cool. But so now I'm going to bring it back to the failure component.
Right.
Okay. Because even though I had this big.com and I was like the guy who owned this big.com and blah, 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 there was also this part of it where I think you touched on it earlier, Zach. There's a big part of what people don't understand about being an entrepreneur and owning your own businesses. There's a lot of it, but there's one thing you need to identify. Look at what you don't want to do.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that a long time ago. I still remember that.
And it's something that I think
it's a good point.
What I got from you with the PhD thing was, even though that was you were pursuing, it wasn't owning your own business, but it was, you very quickly realized you didn't want to be doing that.
No.
Right. So what I'm saying to you is this:
I fell in love with the
idea, the thought
exactly.
of, yeah. But like for me, the key with, and by the way, for those of you fellow, what is it Stephen King always says in his books? Constant reader.
Constant reader.
Dear constant reader.
Constant listener.
Dear constant listener or viewer. So here's the thing. I would tell you this. If you want to know, watchers, if you want to learn from a guy who's been doing this for 22 years, one of the biggest keys to my success is by ultimately over time creating a list of stuff I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's how I came to be in YouTube and creating
reverse engineering.
I reverse engineered to be. For me, it was like, and this is an example of my first don't want to do.
Yeah.
So for me, running this big.com, which we did hundreds of millions of dollars in sales over 8 years and blah, blah, blah. What I realized, I don't want to manage a bunch of people. Yeah. I don't want to, we had 100+ people working for me at one time because I was running it day to day. And guess what I realized? I'm not good at managing 100 people.
But see, realizing what you're good at and what you're not good at. I mean, that could be a whole podcast.
Oh, it is. Believe me, that's a whole different. Right? That's another one. Another podcast coming on that.
So many people just don't want to just fess up to the idea that I'm not good at this.
It's hard to admit it when you're doing it,
right?
But when I sold it and I looked, but I was miserable in my own right because my job, even though I was the owner, my job was managing people.
Yeah.
Okay. So my point to you is
a lot of personalities.
Yeah. I didn't want. So therefore, big key takeaway here, right, is that you need to start identifying. I think running your own business, write down a list of piece of paper. What do you not want to do?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, and I don't think I've ever heard
what can you not put up with?
Well, what are you not good at?
Yeah.
What are you not good at? I'm not good at managing a bunch of people.
Right.
I'm barely good at managing myself.
Yeah. Be honest with yourself. Like literally be honest with yourself.
Yeah. So that was a big part of it. And then there's other components of it, like it was a very operationally hard thing to manage because you had a bunch of inventory and all this other crap and stuff. Mm-hmm. So another thing I walked away was I want to own and run a very, very simple businesses. Mm-hmm. Okay. Which ultimately, and we'll talk about this more in other podcasts, but which ultimately led to, there was a multi-year process here, Zach, and I'll end on this, then we can move on, where I literally got down to the process of I want to create and or own digital-based companies.
Yeah.
For example, I did a company where I started a how to make money on Amazon course. Look at where did you and I meet? YouTube. I created a digital company that's YouTube based, right? It's digital. And part of the reason I did that was, number one, there's usually no cost of goods sold, right?
Yeah.
You had your hot sauce business, which I know we'll talk about, failure, which I'll turn it back to you in a minute. But you had a cost. Every single bottle, you had a cost, you had packaging, you had all that shit.
The margins were terrible.
There you go.
That's why it was a failure.
That's my point,
100%.
Right? So ultimately, that's kind of how I ended up. So here's the takeaway, and I'll end on this, is that part of the way to identify failures is literally write down, or at least start a list of what do you not want to do.
Yeah.
and then now back to you. And I know you you did the PhD thing. But meanwhile, I opened the door. So talk about the hot sauce thing.
Yeah, I mean, the PhD thing was one thing, the broadcasting was another. The broadcasting thing I love, and that's what we're doing right now. So like I'm doing what I love. Like I've always loved that.
But you were so you had the PhD and then you were doing like sports broadcasting.
Correct.
You were calling basketball games and stuff like that.
So when I was getting my undergraduate degree, I actually got an internship my sophomore year to broadcast games at the college I was at.
Gotcha.
D1 college. It was awesome. I mean, got to travel a little bit.
Make sure I'm in camera here.
Then by the time I got to my master's program, I was actually working on my master's at the same school, and I was hired on local radio and local TV, just some freelance kind of stuff. It wasn't like full time, but it was, I had some extra money coming in, and I was getting paid to actually teach some courses and stuff too, and get my degree and what have you. When I went and got my PhD, I didn't broadcast a lot.
Okay.
And I think that's why I really started to suffer, because I was missing what I love.
I
wasn't doing like what I'm actually passionate about.
Right.
I started pursuing this other thing like full time. I thought it was a great idea, right? It wasn't. But going on to some other failures, like once I got done with the PhD, now I'm working as a professor. And meanwhile, again, like year 2 of getting the PhD, I was like over it.
Yep.
Got through it, started working. As soon as I started working, I spent 4 years like with my PhD working in the field. As soon as I got it, I was looking for a way out. Like literally as soon as I got it, I'm like, okay, like, like the family was all like, oh, congratulations. Like you did it. And I'm just like, I don't give a shit. Like I'm getting out of here, like some way.
But you weren't telling them that, were you?
No, I wasn't.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I was quiet about it. Like, because, I knew I was kind of doing it for other people.
That's
a whole nother podcast.
You had the social.
I was doing it for other people, not for me.
Yeah, I mean that's a big. To your point, before I get this, I want to get this out of my brain. You were working and achieved the thing because of the social. Like you thought that's what you should do. Then there's the other thing,
social status. Like,
But then there's the other thing, like when somebody starts a business, they don't want to tell their friends and family what I'm doing because they're afraid of what they'll think. And
exactly.
And usually it's your friends and your loved ones that will actually ironically tear you down and shoot you. It's usually coming from a place of love.
Right.
But they
don't want to see you step out of your comfort zone. They don't want to see you take a risk. It's
probably, somebody needs to be writing this shit down. That's another idea for a podcast.
We're going to come back to this one and create.
Exactly.
Exactly. But yeah, dude. So as I started working the job and I'm like, okay, like I got to find a way out of here. Right. So I'm starting all these like little small businesses. The first one I started was actually a consulting business, which was actually a pretty decent idea.
That one's a good one because it's digital. It's you.
And I was doing what I was skilled at, but again, wasn't passionate about.
But what were you consulting about?
So I was helping people do their resumes and cover letters for jobs.
I'm going to poke holes in it. Not scalable.
Yeah.
Unless you want to hire a bunch of people to go do it.
Right.
Very, very laborious, right? Tedious.
Yes.
What else is wrong with it?
I mean, those were the main things.
Hard to find clients.
To find clients. It was a lot of word of mouth. It was hard to market it. I got to the point where I had a decent,
How much were you making in that? Like when that was like at
when it was at its peak, I was probably making an extra $1,500 a month.
And how much of that? How much time?
And it was cash. It was under the table.
I get you that.
So,
but how much for that $1,500? How many hours a week were you working?
Too many.
What?
Way too many.
10, 20 hours? 20 hours?
Extra? Yeah.
30 hours?
Probably 20, 25 hours.
It was very labor intensive.
Yeah. And it was just me.
Not scalable.
Again, scalable.
Failure, right? Failures. And so if you're listening.
But I learned so much from that
process.
Point.
That's the point. Exactly. I agree.
I learned so much.
You know where I'm going with this. I'm trying to point out like along 100%. The way, right? So keep going. Yeah.
So that was one. And then the hot sauce business, that was cool. So it was fun actually. But the margins were just terrible.
Why did you decide to start a hot sauce business?
Honestly, my buddy was super passionate about it, right? So my buddy was like, he's down in Virginia. I was living down in Virginia, and he was a biologist. He was also a professor, but he was a nerd biologist who like knew all about the whatever the hell that is, C2 levels. I'm botching.
The heat levels.
No, it's like the levels for Oh shit.
Acidity.
Acidity levels.
I completely pulled that out of the air.
We had to take this test, like from North Carolina State University. This thing was like brutal, dude. It was like how to bottle, dude, it was crazy. Like we got all the FDA stuff. And,
oh, you had to do that?
Dude, you had to. Wow. It was a whole thing. But he was the kind of engineer behind all of the different mixtures, and we
dabbled. So he was like the formulator.
Yeah. Okay. And we had some great sauces, by the way. Okay. People still talk about them. So we have an Instagram that's still up and running. Obviously, the business is gone. But people still, to this day, I have access to the Instagram because that was my role.
Okay.
Marketing, communication, social media.
Why did it fail? Why did the hot sauce business fail?
Well, I mean,
if there's a short answer to that.
Yeah, it's multifaceted. But at the end of the day, didn't have enough time. We couldn't scale it quick enough.
Why couldn't you scale it?
Because it was just me and him.
Meaning like there was more orders coming in?
We couldn't keep up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And here's the cool thing. We still have all of these recipes. So like now today, like I'm in a situation where I actually have more capital.
The marketing guy back and wants to go back.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back. So I didn't know this for those of you guys listening or watching. So I didn't know. I thought you didn't know you'd have any orders.
No,
so
we couldn't keep up.
Now I got to dig here. So you had orders come. How did you have the orders coming in? How were you generating the orders?
Bro, it's crazy. So we had an Instagram account and a Facebook page.
Okay.
And
you weren't paying any advertising, or were you?
A little bit.
Not a lot. What were you paying for advertising?
Probably about $100 a month.
Oh, that's nothing. So so you were paying for what? What were you paying to advertise?
Just our posts. We had we had some videos. We had some really cool videos of us like live in the kitchen, like doing it up. We had some really cool videos. I had a buddy who was really good with editing.
Okay.
And he put together some things for us. And here's the thing. It was during COVID.
Oh yeah.
Now, dude, get this. We were literally sending hot sauce across the country during COVID.
Okay.
People were just buying our hot sauce.
Because nobody had any shit to do.
Yeah, it was started in 19 and then went into 20. And that's when we really took off because I think more people were on the internet. They were just like,
they were bored.
Yeah, shit. I got $30. I'll try this hot sauce.
But where were back to the orders? Where was the orders coming from? It's mostly Instagram and the posts and stuff.
So we had local sales. So we were at farmers markets locally.
Okay.
So that was our best margins because obviously we didn't have to ship it.
Yeah.
And we literally, so it was really cool. We lived right next to a huge farmer's market.
Okay.
So we were in this old tobacco warehouse in Danville, Virginia. Love that place, by the way. Shout out to all the people on the back porch. We used to drink a ton of beers and enjoy Friday night. But they all bought it too. But we used to make it and literally walk it over in big barrels and boxes. And dude, we had some good weekends, man. And it was cash money.
So what would you?
It was cash money.
So 3 questions. What was it costing you per bottle? And what were you selling it for?
So we were getting 50 bottles on Amazon for about 88 cents a bottle. So the bottles weren't bad, and they were nice bottles. They were the little hot sauce. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Tabasco style hot sauce bottles. But our ingredients, we had a lot of ingredients.
So what did finished bottle cost you?
Ballpark about
$3.
About $4.
What were you selling it for?
We were selling it for about 12.
Oh yeah, there's part of the problem. Margin, yeah.
Well, I mean, you think, okay, $8 a bottle when you're selling in a brick and mortar or at a farmer's market. But when you start shipping, and we were shipping 4 bottles in these boxes, dude, it was costing us so much in shipping. I mean, it was like 12.
Were you charging for shipping? You charging for shipping?
A little bit, but not enough.
You weren't making enough.
We weren't making enough.
It was eating into the margin.
It was eating into the margin. Yeah. And then not only was it eating into the margin, then the next problem we had is we couldn't scale it. I mean, people were hitting us up like crazy. We couldn't keep up.
You just couldn't make enough.
We couldn't make enough.
The manufacturing process.
Couldn't make enough. And the manufacturing process took us a while. So our hot sauce was called roasted hot sauce. So I think this is part of the reason why we had some success. It was very unique. We roasted all of our ingredients.
Oh yeah, that's good.
And dude, it was good.
Yeah,
we had some good shit. I'm telling you, dude. We had a pineapple habanero, and we would roast the pineapple.
Oh wow!
And everything in there was habaneros and pineapples and bell peppers and onions and garlic and obviously some white vinegar to top it up. And it was like a thicker sauce. All of our sauces were good, man. We had like 10 sauces. They're legit.
Okay. So I'm going to land the plane. Why did it fail? Because you just couldn't keep up with the demand, or because it cost you?
It was a combination of we didn't think through the margins.
Okay.
And the second thing, we couldn't keep up with demand. But I'll say this. I don't want this to like stop people, because I think so many people say, well, I need $10,000 to start a business.
Or I need a good point.
Right? I mean, so many people don't start, and myself included, like I've been here, like, well, I can't start that business because I don't have the capital. Well, what if you find businesses to start where you don't need the capital? And to your point, you found that very early on with online business.
Yeah, but there was a process. But I want to say something. But you bring up a good point. Here's a good point I want to say to you.
Yeah.
Because what I thought you were going to say was this. Like, let's say that you know, a constant listener or whatever that was, those Stephen King thing. I got to come up with a better name. Freedom Nation. That's what we made. We're thinking about calling you guys. Let us know if you like that, by the way.
365er?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
365er?
365.
All the 365ers.
It sounds like we're in prison or something.
365? That's got a ring to it. I don't know.
It's like we're all anyway. So
all the 365.
But what I want to, here's the point I want to make. I think that here's what I would say. Failures are one thing, right? Yeah. But your hot sauce, here's what I want to say. And I'm going to say something, and there's a question in it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think success is relative. Here's what I mean by that. Let's say that you are sitting at home right now, you're listening to this, you're watching the video, and your objective is, I don't want some massive business. I want something that I want to make hot sauce or whatever it is. And I want to make $2,000 a month. And I think I can maybe extra.
Yeah.
And that's their measure of success. And in that scenario, you just, here's what I would say. Take what he said to heart of know your cost, know your profit, and then look at the math and go, if you want to make $1,000 or $2,000, because here's what I want you to understand is that is a success for you.
Yeah.
If that's what you want. I think because the measure of success is this massive yardstick. It's different for everybody. Right.
That's a very good point. And everybody has different goals.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at it as like, okay, I want to make a secondary income and have some fun doing it. Maybe
might be $500 a month.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to make.
That's true. That's a really good point.
So I think that's something we needed to really bring. We needed to bring that home, because usually I've been like looking at it like I want to make really good money and whatever.
You want to make it a career, a living.
Yeah. I want to provide for my family.
Yeah.
I want to, you know, even though my wife
works, the funny thing is though, dude, I mean, I look back at the hot sauce thing now, and I haven't talked to my buddy Justin. He still lives down in North Carolina, and I'm curious now. I'm like, man, what if we have some capital now? Like, here's the thing. Yeah. If we take that idea we had, and our sauces were good, man, I'm telling you, I still get messages today.
Sure.
Where are you guys at? Are you guys coming back to the market? Can I still buy this? And like, I'm like, dude, this is kind of crazy. Like, we haven't been doing this for a while, and people still want it. Whatever. I'm thinking about it now. It is way easier when you have capital. It is.
Well, money makes things easier. But,
in a business like that. But like, I want to take it to businesses that you don't need capital, right? Because like, how do you minimize some of these failures? You start a YouTube channel.
Well, okay, so
there's no risk in that.
No,
there's no price. I spent $0 starting a YouTube channel.
You started it with an old computer, an old microphone.
$0
that I gave you shit for months.
100%.
Until I shamed you into buying a new computer.
100%.
That's the truth, by the way. But I started the same way.
I don't know if we want to go in this direction.
No, we'll talk about that later. But I mean, but your point is this. Here's what I would say is that, because there's people like, oh my God, I'm not going to go on camera. Your point is, again, right? Failure, literally, and tell me if I'm wrong. Make a list of shit you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Make a list of shit you do want to do.
Yeah.
And then, oh, by the way, make a third list of, hey, what can I start that's really, that has no real high cost of capital?
Yeah.
Because that is,
if you fail at that, it's okay.
Then you had, because that is the other criteria that I didn't get to was, after I sold my.com, I spent the next from 2009, I had multiple companies, and it was always driven around what can I do that has literally no cost of no real high upfront capital. That was the other thing I did.
Yeah.
Because the .com was so,
and you can afford
freaking capital intensive. Yeah. I mean, and you know, if it costs you $1,000 to start a hot sauce business or to go buy a new computer or whatever to start that type of business. The thing about it is that I think that's true. And the other thing I want to kill one other misconception. There's this whole misconception out there that people think you need to start and run something that you love.
Yeah.
Complete bullshit. Just going to say that. Oh, if you're going to start your own business, it needs to be something that you love. I think that's complete crap. Here's why. Number one, I didn't know that I was going to love creating videos for YouTube. I had no idea. Okay. I didn't know it until I was in it. That's the problem, is that a lot of times you don't know, like people, like let's say there's people that are going to be listening to this podcast or watching this video. They may be amazing at running a business that has 4 employees. To me, having a business that has 4 employees is my own, that's my own living hell.
Kryptonite.
I don't want to do that. Yeah. Right. But that's my point, is that, you know, they may want to go start a retail brick and mortar business in their hometown. My own version, that's literally my living hell. Yeah. That's me. Right. But I'm like, if that works for them, then amen. That's cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you want to start a brick and mortar, also, if you're going to start a brick and mortar, please figure out a way to add an internet component to it.
Have to.
And so you're not dependent upon the brick and mortar thing.
Yeah.
And then be aware that brick and mortar is going to cost you more from a capital standpoint.
So I think what you're saying is so many people, and I think you're right, if I'm understanding it correctly here, so many people don't start something because maybe it's like they're trying to find that perfect thing.
There is no perfect thing.
Right. They're trying to find that perfect thing out of the gate. Right?
There is none.
It's like, I'll wait until I have that one perfect thing and that perfect idea, and I love it. You just got to try a bunch of stuff.
And here's what
I got to try.
Amen, brother. That was a great. So here's what I would say to you. And this is truly I've been doing this shit for 22 years, gray hair to prove it. I would tell you this is where the Tony Robbins of the world and some of the gurus have gotten this right.
Yeah.
Look for success that already exists. Here's what I mean. You want to start a business to sell iPhone covers. I'm completely making this up. Okay. Just making that up. Is there already a business selling? Is there already a bunch of people selling iPhone covers? Yes. There's already a bunch of demand.
Yep.
My point to you is look. And so if you want to do a business that's that thing, make sure there's already people doing it. Make sure there's already people doing it
There's
well. There's a market. Oh, by the way, go buy their product.
Yeah.
Pay attention to their sales process. Like literally, like when you go buy it, what is their sales process? What does it look like? What do they do well? What do they not do well? What could you do different? What could you do better? And then identify in that. Now, this applies to digital products and it applies to physical products, iPhone covers, whatever, as an example. My point is this, is that I think, dude, you were so right. So many people think that they have to, whatever that business is, they have to start something that they're going to love. Bullshit. You don't have to, you don't.
No, you don't know if you don't try.
You don't know. And my dad had a saying, and this was true, making money is boring.
Yeah.
Truly.
True.
Think about it.
Making money that boring is
making money is boring. If you having a business that is up and running, that is profitable, actually it's kind of boring. Look at
you're right.
You know, and
it's people think when they don't, I mean, you've been there a lot longer than I have, but I mean, from in my short time of having a little bit of success, it's not what I thought it would be.
Well, okay,
I'm not saying I'm not happy. I'm not saying any of that. But like you feel like when you don't have it, like, oh, if I can only get this, and then everything is perfect. Like, but it's not that.
But look at our lives right now. Like we both have very successful YouTube channels, and we talk about crypto and all this. For those of you guys who don't know us, do that. Our links will be down in the description, show notes, and below, whatever. But we get up every single day and we make videos for that business.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, there's the Tuesday. I'm like, I don't want to get up and make videos.
I am not motivated every single day.
You're not motivated.
But we're dedicated.
You're dedicated because if you get up and make those, point here is if you get up and do the work, you make the money for that day, and it gives you the freedom to do with your days as you will. Freedom365, right?
100%.
But I think that's the biggest myth Zach, is that people think that if I just start my own business, I'm going to be magically happy. Bullshit.
No,
it doesn't change.
You're going to work harder than you've ever worked,
and you're going to work.
Yeah.
You're not going to go, I want to sell iPhone covers, and magically you start selling 400 iPhone covers and you're going to go sit on the beach. That shit.
No,
that's not. You're going to be managing. If you're selling 400 iPhone covers, or you're selling courses, or you're selling hot sauce, or you're making videos, or you're doing whatever, you still have to do the work.
Got to put the time in.
The difference is that it's your own deal and you're building your own business. And if you've figured out what you didn't want to do,
you don't have somebody telling you, how much money you can make.
Yeah.
Where you have to be.
You have the risk. It's your ass is on the line.
What you have to wear.
Yeah.
When you can go home.
I agree.
When you can go to Chipotle. When you can go to the bathroom. I mean, think about it.
I love Chipotle.
Seriously. Yes. I mean, dude.
We need to get Chipotle.
This sounds crazy.
We need to get Chipotle as a sponsor.
That'd be great. This sounds crazy. I love Chipotle too. Have you tried the new garlic steak?
It was okay.
It's really good.
Did you like it?
I thought it was pretty good, actually. Oh no, you were telling me you thought it wasn't
as good as the carne asada back in the day.
I thought it tastes very similar. I don't know.
But it wasn't like this major difference.
I don't know why they took
I was expecting this really magical thing. I'm sorry. I apologize. Go back. Go ahead.
But yeah, man. I mean, oh shit, I lost my train
of thought. Chipotle.
What the hell are we talking about?
You don't have to have people telling you what to do.
100%, dude. And there's so much gratification about that.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about it, dude. Like just the other day, it was like 2:30, and you're like, "Hey, dude, I'm going," because we're on Zoom every day. We run our own business, but we
talk every day. Yeah.
He was like, "Oh, I'm going to Chipotle at 2:30." Dude, you couldn't do that at an office job.
No.
Lunch is from 12 to 1, Austin. If you don't go to Chipotle between 12 and 1, you don't get your Chipotle, damn it. You know, I mean, think about it.
I haven't thought about that in 25
I mean, that's
forever. Yeah.
And so many people are trapped in that, dude. And listen, I don't want to say for some people like the structure, they like the 9 to 5, but anybody who's listening to this obviously wants to consider something else, right? And I think those are the things I enjoy. Of course, the money's great, the creativeness part of it, right? Like the fact that you don't have somebody holding you down and holding you back. You can just try shit. But the other thing is like just the freedom of just I can go get Chipotle at 2:30. I can go over here and.
But you have to have the money. You have to have the profit coming in to support that.
Sure, 100%.
Or again, we've covered such a massive amount of ground here, right? I mean, everybody's.
And I'm sure we'll rehash a lot of this stuff in other ways.
But everybody's version of success is different. I mean, somebody's maybe I want to make $500 and that's it. Somebody's again. So I think let's land the proverbial plane. We're north of 40 plus minutes, which is crazy. We've talked about this long, but this has been a good one. I think here's what give our constant viewer and listeners. I got to come up with something. Freedom Nation. Y'all drop in the comments below what you wanted your name to be.
Yeah.
Freedom Nation. I think 365.
You got to let them come up.
365 sounds like I'm in prison. Like I'm locked in 365ers.
365ers. All right. Yeah, you're right.
Weird. It sucks. Anyway, go ahead. So. You get three. Here's remember, okay, we looked up how to create a podcast, right? So at the end of it, you're supposed to have a takeaway. What's your 3 takeaways? Your 3 things, and you give 3. This is a thing. We may have just made a thing. What's your 3 takeaways for this?
Does it have to be related to our theme of the show?
No, it could be anything. And but 3 takeaways.
By the way, guys, we'll have titles here. We might go off the rails.
Yeah,
because I mean,
shit's gonna go.
It's gonna be real. It's gonna be raw. None of this is planned.
I'm gonna say shit.
The only piece of paper we have here is Lucky China 8 Chinese restaurant. Shout out to them. So
I'm not eating there tonight.
No, I know.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was in the door. 3 takeaways. You're putting me on the spot, man.
You want me to go first?
Go ahead.
All right. So my 3 takeaways for the failure episode is really truly identify what your version of success is. So your version of success may be I want to start a business that just augments my income, and that's $500, $1,000, whatever that number is.
Yeah,
that's number 1 takeaway. Number 2 takeaway: literally write down on a piece of paper stuff you don't want to do. And you may not even think it has to do with running your own business, but look at some of my examples. I don't want to manage people. I don't want to manage extremely complex businesses that have a lot of moving parts from financial and inventory and all this stuff. And those are because out of a list of what you don't want to do will come things that, oh shit, that I can do that.
Yeah.
So have a list of stuff you don't want to do. And the other, I think my third takeaway would be whatever business you're looking at. I'm going to steal this one from Zach. Minimize risk. Don't put a bunch of money into something if you don't have to. Let's say you're thinking about doing a brick and mortar business in your local hometown. Maybe start a .com component of it first.
Yeah.
And then if you want to have, because it's cheaper to start a .com. It just usually is because you don't have the physical. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There you go. You don't have rent. You don't have employees. You don't have, FICA and insurance and all that other crap, stuff like that. So minimize your risk. That's my 3. I got more, but that's my 3. So
I like it. Okay. All right. So number 1, I'm going to go with, you mentioned something about writing down what you don't want to do.
Yes.
I'm just going to say write more.
Yeah.
Write more in general.
Excuse me.
I'm telling you, man. Listen, I don't write as much as I used to, but I'm telling you, it helped me tremendously, man. I kept a notebook by my nightstand, and I just wrote every day, like a little bit every day. Yeah. It sounds cliche.
I'm kidding you.
So
I am kidding, but
Disney.
I think there's value in that.
It literally sounds like a Disney movie.
I'm just giving him shit because I don't
journal,
like him.
Johnny.
Yeah,
I'm telling you though, it helps.
I wish I could do it. I don't. It's just not how. I just don't.
I used to do a lot more. I need to get back.
So
to it,
you want them to write more?
Just write. Like write down your ideas.
Like what comes out of that?
Everything. Like write down what you're grateful for, what you want, what you don't want.
That I like.
Write down things you like. Write down things you're passionate about. And eventually all of this stuff, like compiled in this notebook, you're going to find a way to going into my number 2 would be try things that that you could like. Like this leads you to the point of okay, well, this might be something that I can give a shot
Damn
at.
it, you actually tied that together.
Right? Or this might, or this is something I definitely don't want to do because, I wrote it every day, I'm writing. Okay, well, what's in here?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, maybe I should try this or try that or try this or try that. That's my second one. And then thirdly, I'll say this. I just actually tweeted this the other day. I think this is so important. Take advice from people who have what you want.
Take advice from people who have what you want. Okay.
Think about that. Take advice from people who have what you want.
What does that mean?
So once you are writing a lot, you start identifying what you want in life.
Okay.
You start identifying what you actually want to accomplish, how much money you want to make, how much success you want to have, what you want to do with that time. All we have is time, right? So once you have that figured out, find people who already are doing it.
Give me a finite example of that. Give me a specific example of that.
Okay. Perfect example is how I met you.
Oh, well, there you go.
So I was on YouTube. I found that path because I started writing and journaling and thinking about what I'm good at and also identifying what I'm not good at. I was like, wait a minute. I was on radio and TV for 7 years. I can do this talking thing. I can't do a math problem, but I can do this talking thing, right? That's something I'm good at.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm decent at that. I could try that. Okay. Well, at that same time period, I was really focused on investing more and saving more and finding out more about crypto and stocks. I'm like, well, I can just start talking about that. Right.
So that's the kind of videos you started creating.
That's the videos I started creating, and then I got monetized pretty quickly. I got lucky in that regard. Thank you, Shiba Inu and all the Shiba Inu holders out there. But as soon as I got monetized, what did I look for? I looked for somebody.
Monetized means that he was getting a cut of the ad revenue on YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, you're right. Good point.
Yeah.
As soon as I got monetized, I didn't sit there and say, "Oh man, I've got it all figured out. Here we go."
You reached out to me because
I reached out to you because you had something I wanted, which was what? More subscribers. You've been doing the thing. I could tell, you've been in the game. You
gotcha.
And I think I guess a third thing or maybe a fourth thing. Put your ego aside,
you're saying go to somebody who's been there, done that, and ask questions and get them, see if they
ask
mentor
questions.
you, ask questions.
Be curious and so many people don't do that, man.
I agree.
100%.
See, the funny thing is I wouldn't have done that. That's so funny. Because how I started the YouTube thing is I put my nose in a book for 4 months and figured, and you know what I'm saying is that I taught myself how to do it.
And everybody has a different process.
But that's a good point. I love your attitude.
Yeah.
I love that you just reached out.
Yeah. I mean, my thing was, it was like, okay, I've got a little bit of this figured out, but I obviously don't know what I'm fully doing here. Yeah. I mean, I have enough background in this that I can go on camera. But there were things I was missing, right? Like when I first started talking to Austin, it was like search engine optimization, all these things. I mean, it's just, all it was an email, a phone call. Like so many people are afraid to reach out.
They are.
Like,
they are.
The worst that can happen is that you never answer.
Yeah.
The worst that can happen is you answer the phone and you're like, no, dude, I'm not going to help you. Yeah. Right? I mean, like, there's no risk in that for me.
Right.
There's no risk at all.
Right.
Some motorcycle flying by.
Sounds like somebody just wrecked on a motorcycle. That was odd.
I guess we should wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. So no, I think it's
parting words. What do you
I think that's good stuff, dude. I think so. Your point is that look for mentors, look for people that can give you guidance in whatever it is you want to do. I think that's a valid
find out
point.
what you want to do first.
Yeah.
You know, however you want to do that. I mean, I think it's through a lot of different ways: trial and tribulations, writing, thinking, all of that, and then try it. And once you find something,
so do you think we've accurately covered the failure aspect of this? We really covered a lot of ground, but do you think But
I think this is good because we didn't have a script. We had a.
But I think failure's relative. Yeah. To me, failures were what there was companies that I started an SEO company that I search engine optimization was a consulting company, right? And it was this thing. But here's my point: is that by starting that, I was like a month in going, I don't want to do this anymore.
You wouldn't know if you didn't try.
I didn't know. And so, but I had no cost in it and all these kind of things, but there was parts of it that I did. But here's what I'm trying to say is that I think one thing I really want the people who are listening and watching this to get is that I think your main message, what I really heard you would say is that I think don't be afraid to fail. Yeah. I think a lot of people are afraid to fail. I think that's probably been to me one of the aspects. Yeah. I think truly, if I looked in the mirror, if I asked my wife, what's one of my biggest strengths is that in the 17 years married, 18 years we've been together. I think truly, without even realizing it, one of the biggest things is I'm not afraid to fail. Meaning I'm willing to try. I've literally reinvented myself 5-6 times in 20 years.
A lot of people are scared to do that.
They're scared to do that. And I think that's truly, I want to end on that note because I think that is really what it comes down to is that you got to be open to reinventing yourself and you got to be okay with the fact that you're going to fail.
No doubt.
And your hot sauce example really was, see, it's funny. I thought it was a failure. Really wasn't a failure. You were successful. You had sales coming in
to a point.
You had sales. Yeah. Well, yeah, you reached this point where you're like looking around, going, we can't scale it. We can't do this. We can't make it fast enough. We this. But it wasn't a failure in the way that most people think of it, where you didn't. I honestly thought you weren't selling. I didn't know. I thought you weren't selling it.
Yeah.
I thought that was the story.
We couldn't sell enough.
That's my point, right?
Yeah.
But you would still quantify that as a failure, correct?
Yeah.
Exactly. Even though it really wasn't.
Yeah.
Because it was a failure in the context of maybe your vision of you wanted to, whatever
your plan and this big idea. And then it got to a point where it's like, oh man.
Yeah. And you probably was some aspect of, do I really want to be doing this like full time going forward?
Yeah.
Probably was a little bit of that too.
Yeah.
And I think there's always going to be that.
We were grinding, man. We were in the kitchen, literally making the sauce.
Yeah. Which ultimately you would have outsourced that and you would have done some of that. But that's, I think that, and again, I think that's the other thing we didn't mention is that I think this is the final thing. I think everybody has this idea of vision that when they start that business doing that thing, that everything's going to be perfect. And that is completely not true.
You're going to get thrown a lot of curveballs.
Exactly. And it's going to,
curveballs.
There you go. It's going to change. And in that process, Zach, you may identify, hey, I want to go into this business doing this thing because hey, Austin, it matched your list. It was something but you may, when you get into it, you're like, holy shit.
Never mind.
I didn't know I found this thing I didn't know I like to do, or we're selling too much, but we can't make enough of it.
Yeah.
Or you have to be willing to adapt.
Right.
And you have to be willing to go, okay, I'm going to minimize my danger here, my loss here, or whatever it is. And maybe I don't want to do this for the rest of my life
100%.
or whatever it is and move on. Wow.
100%.
Okay, that's all I got. I'm done.
Yeah, we've covered a lot. We're going to talk a lot more about.
I think this should be like 4 different.
Oh, for sure.
podcasts.
I've got, dude. I didn't even tell you about my online men's products,
That's another story for
eye
another day.
creams, and all. Dude, yeah, that's.
Were you selling erectile dysfunction pills?
No. So
Somebody's gonna make fun of you
I'll-
for that.
Oh, for sure. Go ahead. Let them bring them in. Come on in. Go ahead.
No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah,
That's
I'll
funny.
tell you more about that one.
But it was
That's,
like what was it like?
oh, it was like eye serums, lotions,
Oh, yeah.
anti-aging stuff
men.
for men. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were looking at. I don't want to get it too far into it, but we were looking at all kind of research that it was getting big in Europe, and I think it still actually is getting bigger now in the States, but it's huge in Europe. It's absolutely huge, and eventually it'll kind of make its way here, and people care about it more. But anyway, we'll get into it in another story.
Right.
But it's online, so that was a good thing we had. But
There you go.
we did okay, but yeah, there were some issues, but we'll get into it.
Wrap us up. You're the official bring it home guy.
All right, guys. Make sure you download this podcast. Apparently, that really helps us.
Yeah, please download it.
It helps boost us up in the
though you're
algorithm,
listening to it,
which
I
is
don't
so
know.
weird. But we read that like if you have to download it in order for us to get pushed up in the algorithm. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe.
Follow us on Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter. It's at Your Freedom365.
Links in the description below.
Links in the description below. And let us know in the comments who you would like to see as a guest
Comments
in the
for
future.
videos, right? Not comments for podcasts.
Yes.
You can't leave a comment on a podcast.
comment on podcasts, which
We're video guys. We're figuring this podcast thing out.
that's so weird. How do you get feedback if you're just on Spotify?
You don't.
It's so weird.
You don't.
That's so weird.
Leave us feedback on our Twitter page. I don't know.
Yeah,
Would that
tweet
mean
at
that
us.
they would have to tweet at us?
I don't know. Follow us on YouTube.
This is
Your Freedom365. But yeah, let us know who you want to hear or who you want to listen to. We're going to bring on a ton of different guests.
And
but
let us know what else you want to talk about. What do you want to know?
Yep.
We'll go from there. See you.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.